Good morning, I'm Donna Moses.
All right, Donna, when did you start CrossFit?
I started CrossFitting a little over 6 years ago. I was at a point in my life, as I had explained earlier to Steve, the most unlikely candidate to walk through the front door. I was really grossly overweight at that point, late 50s. I had never been athletic. And I knew I needed to make a drastic change in order to enjoy my senior years, basically. So the CrossFit program, I had been introduced to it via my brothers, my sister-in-law, Teresa, who slays it like nobody's grandma, and my daughters, who really carry a principle that a strong woman is a beautiful woman. I thought, okay, I can give this a try.
That's awesome. Thank you. All right, so let's see. So why do you like working out at CrossFit Wilmette?
CrossFit Wilmette. Well, I've had a lot of fun, number one. I think in any environment, you have to be engaged to want to keep going. And firstly, the people here. I enjoy the people with whom I work out. There's a genuine mix of personalities and ages and abilities at this box. So no one person is kind of an oddball here. We all have our strengths and weaknesses, and I think everyone here encourages you to, do the best you can do and helps motivate you to reach that stage. And then secondly, I would say the coaching. I had a wonderful first experience when I began. Genuinely, as somebody who was literally learning how to run, walking into a class wasn't going to be an option for me. It just wasn't a viable option. So I was privileged enough to be able to start with private training, and I did that a couple times a week for a couple of years, really, before I was capable of transitioning into a full-time class. And we worked on everything, from the cardio conditioning to the strength training, all of these things that are important for heart health, muscle, to prevent muscle loss, to improve bone density, improve bone density, prevent osteoporosis in older women.
Sure. Yeah, that's so great. Yeah, I'm glad that worked out for you. All right, so would you recommend CrossFit Wilmette to others?
Absolutely. I have traveled extensively across the U.S. for business and had started to pop into various different CrossFit boxes across the country, and they're all quite different. I think the personality here is unusual. The demographics are a very mixed age group, mixed ability group, and so it's very easy to transition in here. And obviously I've gotten to know people better, so that level of engagement has kept me coming back for more.
Yeah.
But the coaches, I think, also have placed an emphasis here, which I haven't necessarily seen in other places. There's an emphasis on best practices here.
Sure.
We are pretty consistent in terms of always opening with a warm-up, and frankly, my private coach always encouraged me to have a warm-up before my warm-up because senior joints didn't seem to move as well. But we do dynamic stretching, we do the workouts, which are varied, and then there generally is a cool down as well component to the program. And that's not always consistent elsewhere.
Yeah.
I think any program that you do, obviously you have to self-monitor, but I think the coaches here have laid out that best practices approach that has enabled me to, I've definitely had days when I hurt, and there are definitely days when muscles aren't acting the way you want them to, but for the most part, I have avoided any of those deep-seated fears that people seem to have about CrossFit.
Right.
The motivation for me is to stay in the game at this point, and I think that the way CrossFit Wilmette structures its programs, I have been able to do that.
That's great.
And succeed.
Yeah, at a high level.
At a very high level now, yeah.
That's awesome. All right, so share one tip about CrossFit Wilmette.
Okay.
Or something about
So
CrossFit.
about CrossFit, I think that we've talked about best practices among the coaches. It's a great crew of people that I work out with. The modifications that are possible. So every movement has a beginning, and where your movement is something your coaches will help you find. Like where you start really doesn't matter. It's just getting moving. Just start. That's the most important thing. So you can modify routines to do fewer reps, lighter weights, a completely different exercise that also targets the same muscles.
Sure.
You'll have your advanced members working, you know, parallel to people like me. I mean, I can't, for example, I cannot do pull-ups. Maybe by 70. I can say I'm definitely was strong by 60, but I don't know about the pull-ups if those are ever going to come from me. But you know, my substitute would be to do the hangs here and continue to work on doing that longer. I will substitute ring rows, and I think many other people will do that as well. If you have a warm-up where you can move slowly and more controlled, maybe you attempt to do the more advanced technique. But if you're in the middle of a workout of the day where pace is a little bit faster, then you just substitute a complete movement. And your coaches can offer you all different options for that. So it's not something to be afraid of.
Sure. Just gotta find
It's find your starting point, and basically the
Exactly.
program is accessible to everybody no matter what your ability level is.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree. That's great. All right, do you have any last words you want to say?
Well, I was thinking that in terms of the CrossFit program itself, when people, they promote themselves as being advantageous to functional movement. And people may hear that and wonder what that is.
Sure.
And that's things like carrying your groceries, shoveling the snow in your driveway, sprinting to catch your work bus, running after your kids, picking your kids up, squatting. We squat all day long, up and down in our desk chairs, on the loo. Those are things that are certainly become more important for me as I get older. I want to be able to do those things as long as possible.
Sure.
And I do take pride that I can shovel my own driveway,
Yeah.
even in the worst Chicago snow. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Donna.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
your time.
I have a great time here. Thank you,
Wow.
Steve.
Thank you.